Welcome to episode 73 from the Bonk Bunker. No, from Silver Lining for Learning. We're glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. We're going to hear from Costa Rica today. It's our first show of the 73 that we've had featuring people from Costa Rica. In fact, Costa Rica is a big item this week because it's featured in the New Yorker. It's the long article, and if read it, it's about healthcare systems in the New Yorker and why they're so much better than the rest of the world and how the rest of the world needs to catch up with Costa Rica. So we're going to hear something else about Costa Rica, and that's night high schools, which is another thing maybe the rest of the world needs to catch up with too. We're going to hear from Natalia Ramirez-Casalvolone, who's a doctoral student at Indiana University. She's also a professor at the University of Costa Rica and was one of the people who's been involved in a huge way in helping women get educated and come back to get a high school education. She's working with Hania Morales, and the two of them will describe night high school for us. But before they do that, Natalia, can you tell us why the New Yorker is featuring Costa Rica today?
Well, the New Yorker is saying that Costa Ricans live longer than Americans because of the health system that we have and how it has been a big interest from the different governments to just give the Costa Ricans a public social system that is sustainable and open for everyone. So that's basically the point of the article. I agree with what it says. I think that Costa Rica has a great public social security, social health system. It's been talked about in many occasions around the world. Even though we are a very small country, very poor country, health has always been like priority for.
And it seems like education is now a priority as well. And you're changing the social, cultural, educational, emotional development of young women in your country, and maybe slightly older than young women, but women trying to come back and get an education, who are picking coffee, who are running fruit stands, who are working in factories and other jobs, factory jobs around the country. You're offering them an opportunity. And so I've asked Hania and Natalia to show us some pictures of what's happening there so we can visualize it actually. And then within that, they'll describe what's going on, and then we'll jump in with questions after they're done doing that. So Natalia, you want to take over at this point?
Yes, I'm going to start by sharing. So we're going to be talking about night schools, but we're going to feature one night school specifically, the night school where Hania and I have worked over the years. It's the case of the Colegio Nocturno de Naranjo. And I want to just show a little bit of pictures so people can visualize where the Naranjo High School, Nocturno High School is located. So on the left side, we have a picture of Naranjo downtown. It's a small downtown, maybe 10 blocks of commercial establishments, maybe some houses, but all the surroundings look very similar to the right picture. It's canton. Canton is like provinces are divided by cantones. So Naranjo is a canton where most of its areas are coffee plantations. One of the most, or I think it's the first economic activity of Naranjo is coffee picking, coffee plantation, coffee exportation. So the right picture, that's what it's trying to show. Here is a common dirt road. We are seeing less of these nowadays. The municipalidad has been trying to get all roads paved. We're from a tropical country, and it rains most of the year. So dirt roads are very inconvenient in many ways for us. So this is the Cerro del Espíritu Santo. It's an iconic place right here. You can see from one of the highest areas of the canton, the cities that go beyond. It's so high that we can see other cantones like Palmares, San Ramon, Grecia. So I'm just showing a little bit of what it looks like. And now, Colegio de Naranjo, Ania will explain why it says Colegio Naranjo and not Colegio Nocturno de Naranjo. So I'm just giving it over to Ania.
Okay, thank you, Natalia. Well, as you can see, the entrance, this is the main entrance of the high school, and it says Colegio de Naranjo because there is no big sign for Colegio Nocturno de Naranjo, because these high schools were born using the infrastructure of these other high schools. As they were used during the day, we use them at night to teach our students. As Colegio Nocturno de Naranjo is a regular Costa Rican public high school. It is ruled by the Ministry of Public Education of Costa Rica. We call this ministry MEP. Only people who are over 15 years old are allowed to register in the high school. This type of modality is, we have like a multi-age population. And in recent years, more and more housewives and workers who didn't start or didn't finish their studies are registering in come to us to continue with their studies or to start their studies. However, this high school, I would like to point out that this high school is very different from any other high school, I would say, in the world, because it's unique. It's a place that is unique. And in this moment, we have around 700 reasons for it to be unique. We have 700 students. This institution was founded in 1971. We are celebrating our 50th birthday, but its roots started in 1956, yeah, with the foundation of Naranjo Night Primary School that was created by a group, I would say, of visionaries who realized that adult people from Naranjo needed a place to finish their primary studies. And they say that even teachers who worked for the school had no pay. They did it for free just to make people learn how to write and read. Then when these people got their primary school degree, they realized that they needed a place to continue the secondary school. So they decided, or they made the arrangements and they made a proposal to create a night high school. And then they organized like a project that ended with the official creation of our beloved Colegio Nocturno de Naranjo. As you can see, the person has been the reason and the center for our educational process, and to be like a transformer for society just from the beginning of the foundation of this high school.
I just want to share some more pictures of what the high school looks like. Recently, the building went through remodeling, so it's not finished yet, and we still have hallways that belong to the old building, and then we have parts that belong to the new building. So here is a nice contrast between the new building and the old building. This is still a complete hall of a section of what the old building looks like. It's still being used, and it's in process to be remodeled. This is also an old classroom. Okay. Dr. Bonk, you want me to continue with the project, or should we have questions about the high school first and then continue? Oh, you're muted.
I'm muted. I don't see questions coming in yet, so it's okay to show the project and then we'll jump in after that.
Okay, so while being here in the United States, my advisor, Dr. Powen, and I had the chance to apply for a grant with the U.S. Embassy. They were looking for people that would support marginalized, underrepresented populations, and would help in the learning and teaching of the English language. So we, since I have always been fond of the Naranjo Night School and its students, I thought about the women in the Naranjo Night School, which have always been, again, underrepresented, discriminated against because of the specific conditions in which they live. So we came up with a project called the Multimodal English Club. And the main objective was for students to learn English in an informal environment where they would be supported, inspired in theories like funds of knowledge, adult education, feminist pedagogies. And we got the grant, and we implemented the project for a year, and we did a lot with our 20 women students. We had students ages 18 and over. 10 of these students were single mothers. 6 of them were still mothers. They had their partner. And then we had the rest of the students who, well, all of them had day jobs, temporary, informal day jobs, and then they would come at night to study. The club was multimodal since it was hybrid. We had blended, we had online classes, and we had face-to-face classes as well. Hania had a big role because she was like our on-site person, and she would be coordinating with the students and teachers that would come and help us out with workshops and more. And Hania helped us with recruiting the students. I'm going to show you some of the activities.
Natalia, I know you got pictures of the students, right?
Yes.
To show us
Yes.
Young has a question after that, but why don't you show us a couple of the students in there? I think you lost your slides.
That's what I think it's happening. Let me see, where are they? Okay. Can you see this?
Yeah, we can see them.
Oh, okay. So yeah, these are the sample activities that I wanted to show you. So these are the type of assignments that we would have with the students. For example, they did a video diary. They were given the option of doing it in English or in Spanish, and they would introduce themselves and post their videos on Facebook. Let me show you here.
No, we don't get the audio coming through.
You don't? Oh.
Yeah. It's one of the things about PowerPoint and Zoom sharing. You have to be actually in the tool. It would take too long to run through it. So it's okay.
Okay. Well, these are the type of activities they did online, and during the workshops, they would have different English teachers from I had, well, Hania taught some classes. I had my colleagues from the University of Costa Rica come and teach some classes. We were working along with Mary's school from another program in Costa Rica, and she had her students come to teach. I had my former students from the university who were maybe fourth year um, degree students, undergrads, and they would also come to the class and teach the students. They did a lot. So here are some pictures of where they're doing the workshops. Here, this student in the back, well, he's not, he was a teacher. I'm pointing, but you can't see. So in this, Kenneth is a former student from the UCR, now an English teacher. So he volunteered to come and work with the students a couple of nights. And then we also had extracurricular activities for the students where their families got together. They would bring their children. We did some hiking. We did dance lessons. We went out for coffee. We did many different things for them to create an environment, a different learning environment. It was our aim to give them support, not only in the academic way, but also in their personal lives. We tried to create a community where they felt safe and empowered, and a place where they could just share with the teachers and their friends and their classmates about their life experiences, how they were doing this. This is my research for my dissertation now, and what I'm trying to understand is what kind of resources these students use in order to be successful. Because something that I didn't mention is that all of these 20 students are straight A students. They are excellent students who have been, I think 3 or 4 of them already graduated high school, and they have gone on to college. So that is not something common, not so common for students who have these specific life conditions. So that is what I'm trying to find out, like what are their funds of knowledge, what are their resources in that support them to be excellent.
Okay, we probably should end at this point, unless you have something really critical you haven't shown yet.
No, I think that's, I'm gonna stop sharing now.
Okay, if you think of it, we can always come back. So
Okay.
Young, you want to jump in?
Thank you. So I want to really go back to the night school, since we're talking about night school, and I have a few questions because you know, students who fail high school, they might be looking for other opportunities. You know, night school can happen in many different ways, and it does happen in many different countries. People go there at night and they just try to redo it. In the US, some go to community college, some go to other tutoring centers, all those things. So I was just wondering, for your night school, are there still, how do you get the students? Do they pay for it? Is it paid by the government? Or do you just recruit students on their own? And if they come, do they get another, like we call general education degree? Or how does that work for your students? What's the unique, innovative things that you're doing?
Hania, go ahead. That's yours.
Thank you. Well, we don't have to like recruit them. They just come to us. They just come to us because I would say it is like the last chance they have to continue their studies, because most of our students have tried in different systems. They have tried to be in a regular public high school. Education is free and mandatory in Costa Rica. So they don't need to pay, and they don't need money to come to us. The most difficult for us is not them to come, is them to stay with us.
Yeah.
Because they have so many circumstances that make them drop out. And especially now, right? Because of the crisis that we're facing, the sanitary and economic crisis we're facing. So they just come to us. And as I told you before, they are multi-age. We have 15-year-old students, and I have now a student in 10th grade who is around 55-year-old, and he's an excellent student. And so we have to be like multitasking, because facing these kind of different population is not easy, but is great. It's great.
Chris, go ahead.
So I have never taught high school full time, and I have an uneasy feeling that I wouldn't survive for long if I tried to teach high school. But I'm thinking that if I did teach high school, I would really rather teach in your night school than day high school. And I'm thinking that for a number of reasons. First, your students are there because they want to be there, not because they have to be there. Second, they have a lot more life experience, many of them, than typical high school students. So they bring something to the table, something that I could learn. And there would be much more pure learning, I'm guessing, than there would in a typical high school with typical high school age students, all with really very little life experience behind them. So I think it must be very exciting. And I'm wondering if part of why it works is peer learning, as well as really good instructors, or whether it's more the teacher teaches and the students learn.
I want to jump in here just because there is some stigma behind night schools in Costa Rica. For example, my first teaching job was in a night school, and I honestly was a little bit scared of going into night schools. What I have heard was that students were violent, they were aggressive, there was a lot of drug dealing going on. Students were older than probably what I was at the time. And this has been a stigma that follows night schools, right? Students come, not every student comes because they want to, but because the night environment allows them to do other or have other type of behaviors that maybe in the public school they were not allowed to have. As soon as I started working there, it was all proved wrong. However, all of it was still there. There was still aggressiveness, there was still violence, there were still students that came up to me and said not nice things to me. But there was 2 of those, and then I had 18 or 20 that were on the other side, right? The ones that you are describing, Chris, the ones that want to be there, the ones that make you feel as a teacher. I have never felt so respected as a teacher than when I was teaching in night schools. I have never felt with so much responsibility, because the students relied and depended so much on me to teach them. They wanted to learn. They wanted to have conversations with me. So maybe what you're saying is that teachers make a difference, but I think that if we do, it's because students also motivate that in us. Being the teacher of night high school students is rewarding every day. The stories that come into our classrooms, like you say, the life experiences that they share with you, just make you feel that the job that you're doing is very worthy. So Naranjo Night School, and I want Hania to continue with this because Naranjo Night School is also unique. I don't think that Naranjo Night School represents all night schools in Costa Rica. It has, of course, similarities with many of them, but the principal of the Naranjo Night School has done little big things that have made this institution work so much better. And he was invited. It was impossible for him to come. Maybe at some other point we can, or Dr. Bong would like to invite him to the program. But he is truly an educator that has made a big difference. Maybe Hania can tell more about that.
Okay. Well, as Natalia said, I have been blessed by the Lord, and because he gave me the opportunity to work in this high school during 22 years of my life. I have had the chance to share with men and women that I really admire so much. And that's something that I think few people have chance to work with people, with people that is admired. I would say that these people are heroes of daily life. They are survivors. They are healers. I try to teach them English, but they teach me courage. They teach me courage every day. So every single day, they face very difficult situations at home, at work, economic situations, finding a job, raising their children, making money. And besides that, they come for school at night in search of a better future for them and for their children. And me and the rest of the staff, because we have the advisors, the janitors, the security guards, the people who prepare their food because they get a healthy menu, a dinner, a fresh dinner every day. And that's a very important part of our high school. And they come, and me and the rest of the staff try to make our best effort to teach them. But we have this like wonderful raw material, and Colegio Nocturno de Naranjo has developed like a pattern of organization where they get care and love in an organized environment when they know that they have limits. They know they have a schedule. They live or they share in a clean environment, and security is another important thing that we try to offer them. And I read a phrase in Natalia's dissertation that called me so much my attention, and it was written by La Rota and Serrano, and it says that making adults feel capable, respected, supported, valued, and encouraged is fundamental when supporting them. And I would say that phrase has much to do with what we try to do with our students in this high school.
You know, I was going to ask you, I sent Natalia 8 questions, and then after Natalia spoke, I only had 1 question, and then you just answered that question. So, you know, I've been asking previous guests, what are the principles that underlie the program that they've developed? But you just said love, care, and safety, belongingness. all the basic needs and higher order needs as well. But I wonder if there's other principles that you haven't mentioned that others might think about or try to utilize. So besides love, care, and safety, and providing an organizational structure that they can operate within so they feel some comfort from that structure, are there anything else, Natalia or Hania, that you'd like to mention for the environment, the learning environment?
I would say that something that I think we have tried to do, but we have tried to match that with our curriculum, but the curriculum we are advised to use is to take into account their interests and the abilities and the skills they have to be part of, maybe not of the academic part, but part of our environment. You know, I remember an activity we did some years ago where some students offered the services or the skills they had to other students. So some of them know how to cut hair. So some of them had experience on making up people. So, and that's what we've been trying to, you know, to show them that what they know out of the school can be part of the school and is important for us as well as the academic part.
So before we go to Young here, there are two questions that come in from the chat in YouTube. And one Punya posted in here, do their previous experiences in school, possibly not so good in school, get in the way of doing great work when they enter night school? You know, there's a history matter. Does that bad, you know? And then Robert Nelson, who's come before, he has a comment and a question. He really loves Costa Rica. He said this is a beautiful country and beautiful people and wonderful place. But is your project typical of things that he would see in Costa Rica if he went somewhere else? And I think you said no, but I'll let you confirm that. For example, would Silencio have a similar program? So.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the chat to see. So I think that previous experiences with schooling from the students may get in the way at the beginning. At the Nocturno, they have to adjust to a different system, starting with the idea that they are coming from a whole day's work, maybe, or a whole day of other distractions, right? Not necessarily starting the day fresh in the morning with a school environment. So that for one. And also we have students that have been out from their schooling experience for years and years. So maybe I remember a student, for example, who had not been in school for 20 years, and she was now coming back. So that is a big change that we have to work with them. Students who make this decision after 20 years, I mean, they are not the difficult people to work with. Like Chris was saying, they are there with a purpose. They have thought about it, right? It's probably not something that they decided from one day to another. I think that it's more difficult with those students who come to the night school with other purposes, with other ideas, not necessarily academic. And that's when we have like behavior issues, rebellious students who don't want to follow certain rules, who are against the system and who were trying to find another, or who were looking for something they won't find in the Nocturno. So that can get in the way of working as we would wish with them. But what happens in these situations is that they either don't adapt or they do, and then it works. I was looking at is your project typical? The project, is this person referring to the project of the multimodal club or of the Naranjos night schools as a project? I'm not sure. And I don't know what silencio is.
So
Hania,
we'll
do
get
you know?
clarification of that. Let's go to Young for his question.
Okay.
Well, I really had I had many questions actually, because but I'm going to zero in action on one, because from your description, it sounds like the students have to be together. There are behavior issues. You cook a nice dinner with them, all those kind of things, right? You know, we also know, you know, there are open universities, distance universities offering MOOCs, offering courses different places. I was just wondering, given all your 20 years of experience, how would you combine, do a hybrid of face-to-face, in-person, and online? Or do you do a lot of online? You know, and if you added online, can that reduce, you know, students' cost of driving there or taking the bus there, going down there? Just was wondering about any kind of innovation you might do. Is it possible? So I was just thinking about this.
Well, I think that the COVID situation has put us into having to implement that. Anya can explain more of what is happening with this right now.
Well, Costa Rican school year in 2021 started on February the 8th. We started under a modality that combines in-person and virtual classes. Everyone attending the classes, teachers, administrators, the cook, everybody wears a mask, everybody. And we try to comply with a distance of 8.8 meters social distance. There is an alternation according to the capacity of the enrollment of each institution and the physical conditions each institution has. In the case of Colegio Nocturno de Naranjo, we return to in-person classes on a bimodal teaching. It is in person and I would say distance mode, not virtual, distance mode. So they attend classes 2 days a week. Okay, each student has a chance to come to classes, to in-person classes 2 days a week. We as teachers prepare what we call self-study guides. We prepare them in hard copies to make them accessible for those students who have no access to internet or appliances like computers or cell phones. They are prepared for each of the basic subjects. The ministry has also made like selections of subjects to be taught. So the most relevant ones. So they come, as I told you, 2 times a week, and they come to in-person classes. There we explain the self-study guides. We try to include theory, exercises, links for videos or audios that we use. For the links, we mostly use WhatsApp. Okay, we use WhatsApp to share these kind of things. But we try to prepare the material in the most organized way that we can. So this material is explained in the person classes. and they take the guides home and they work on them. If they have doubts, they can contact us through WhatsApp mostly, and they can communicate with their teachers, because, you know, keeping in touch with students to preserve this link we have with students during this whole learning process and this crisis we are facing is a must for us, because we know that if we keep in touch with them, they will stay with us. And they are constantly motivated to attend classes in person. So that's what we mostly do related to like the methodology we used. I don't know if I explained myself enough.
I think Chris wants to jump into the question. When Chris is done, I'm going to follow up after Chris. So Chris?
So I can think of a lot of reasons why a student might come to the night high school. They may be tired of the stigma of not having a high school diploma, and so they want to set that behind them. They may want to go on to college, as you pointed out, a number of students had done. They might want to improve their occupational situation without necessarily going on to college, by getting, you know, knowledge and skills and certifications that would advance their career. And also they might just want to know a bunch of stuff that they don't know, and learn a bunch of things that made them better citizens and better, you know, people understanding the world. So I've sketched some things and probably missed some other reasons, but is there some of those reasons that are stronger than others? Can you give me sort of a profile of how many students come for different reasons, and how the school handles that?
I'd like to say something that can respond to your question, and it also goes back to Young's question about the nocturnos becoming more virtual, more online. I think that many of our students come to the nocturno because of all the reasons that Chris mentions, but also because of the sense of community that is created there. When I talked with my students, my women students, for them, coming to school was also a break from their home situations, a break from their children, a little break for themselves, right? It was a moment for them to work on their future. For them to have time with friends. You know, some women like to have coffee with their friends on a Saturday afternoon. For them, having recess with their friends is that time. Having the opportunity to go to the cafeteria, like Hania said, the cafeteria is a big thing. The cafeteria is one reason that maybe, Chris, you didn't mention, that students go to the nocturno for.
Right.
It might be their only hot meal in the day. So if that is what it takes if studying is what it takes to have a nice, abundant meal every single day, that will that is one reason also.
And they are
So
the food. They are served the food. Their housewives say, okay, I always cooking and giving food to everybody. So to be served my food is just that is a difference for me. And to try a food that was not prepared by your hands, it's something very valuable sometimes when you are always cooking and preparing and taking care of children also.
I'm going to jump in.
So I think that even if Costa Rica had the technology, the internet, and the money to give devices to everyone that would make the optimal environment for long distance or virtual or online education. I think that that part of community and offering these extra services for the students in the nocturno might be one thing that would go against this possibility, even if it meant I don't think students spend that much money going to the nocturno. They basically get most of the service free, right? The buses are free. Students in Costa Rica don't usually have a car to drive to school. It's not something that they do. So even though gas money or gas is expensive, they don't have that chance either. So it's not economically speaking, it's not a big deal. One of the reasons also that students move from day school to night school is because night school is cheaper than day school also. So that is another point to add.
So I'm going to ask a question of Natalia to describe her chapter, because it would give a different perspective of what the women are doing to provide education for others in the country, right? And so that's a story of a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if Hania could give a story of success of someone in night high school. So Hania, think about a success story after Natalia tells her the brief description of what the chapter she wrote in my book, my upcoming book.
Oh, I talked about Jackie. Jackie is a student who, so one of my activities was bring an artifact from your house and that represents part of your culture, part of your everyday life, that has a story behind it. So Jackie brings her phone, her cell phone. And at that moment, I thought, well, she's just going to talk about how cell phones are used for social media, or that's how she stays in contact with her friends, and that it's her beloved device, right? But she comes and tells me about how her cell phone was given by her mother for her 15th birthday, which is what Americans call their sweet 16. In Costa Rica, it's at 15. So her mother decides to give Jackie a phone as a means for her to continue her education, right? Because Jackie is interested in becoming a doctor, and she was interested in watching videos and expanding her knowledge with access to the internet. It was a smartphone. And that is the main reason. And Jackie expresses how dear her phone is to her and how her mother is still 2 years later paying for the phone with monthly fees at one of the biggest shops in Costa Rica that you can get your devices with monthly fees. So yes, that is the story of that's one of the stories. When Dr. Bonk asked me about a story that of that is common of students, or no, the contrary, not so common among students. This was the story of Jackie. We have so many of those.
She wanted the best, even though the mother couldn't afford it. She still got it, you know. So Hania, have you thought of a success story in night high school you want to share with us?
Yeah, thank you. Well,
And then we'll go to Young has a question after that. Yep.
okay. I think there are many success stories, but the ones that I think are more significant are those who have been our students and today are teachers, principals. Because I think that this is significant because they want to replicate. They are going to take this structure to other places where they can promote good people for our country. And I would like to add that I think one of the reasons our students come to us is because sometimes they live in not really organized environments. Some of our students are left at home alone for the whole day, so they can watch, eat, go wherever they want. And when they come to our high school, they know that they have an organized place with limits, schedules, and they at the end, they know they need that to be successful. And that's another reason they come to us, looking for an organized place to get their dreams. And those success stories that I told you were now teachers and principals. Some of them are my colleagues now at Night High School. And it is very interesting to listen to them, how the collection transformed their lives. I would like to mention the jingle. Can I call it jingle, Natalia? The lema, the jingle that we have in the high school is La educación te forma, el colegio nocturno de Naranjo te transforma. Would you please help me to translate it?
So it says that education forms you, but the Colegio Nocturno de Naranjo transforms you.
Very nice.
So that's the theme from the high school.
Very nice. Young, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I was just wondering, if you think about the lessons we learned from this night school for other people, what would that be? You know, like, because every time we invite people to come on our show, we would like their lessons, their experiences to have some implications for people around the world. You know, let's go silver lining for learning. It's apparently that you've done something wonderful. You've done the, you know, you have success stories. So what would you share with others, for our listeners, to say, okay, we've heard the story from Natalia, Hania. You guys have done this for 20 years. It's a night school. So what do you think we can learn from you, from this school?
I would like to say that the lesson that I have learned throughout these years, and it's the one that I wish is shared, is that all students have valuable experiences, valuable stories that we as teachers need to hear. We need to learn. We need to know who our students are. We need to forget a little bit about the mainstream cultural capital, and value everyone's culture, everyone's experiences. Every experience is valuable. We need to listen to our students. We need to give them a place in our classrooms, and respect them, give them the attention that is needed, and we need to know who they are even before they are in our classrooms. So I think that is something that I try to always put in practice in my classrooms. Learn as much as I can about my students, not how much they know academically. I have forgotten about the diagnostic tests about and checking to see if they know, if they are coming knowing what they were supposed to from the past year. I want to know who they are, how they live, what things they know because of the life experiences that they have had.
Thank you, Ty. Young, you want to jump in and comment again?
No, I was just, I love that. Thank you. Because every time I recommend to teachers, I always suggest that they know their students better than their curriculum. You always should know your students better than I think we spend too much time preparing lessons. We need to prepare for our students. Thank you, Natalia.
Thank you.
Hania, it sounds like you want to jump in here.
Okay, I think what I would like to emphasize is that students are people. Each student is a person, In Costa Rica, we call our students, we use the word person before teacher and before student. So you say the person teacher, the person student, okay? To remember us that we are human beings. And I think this is very important, and to know, to have clear that what I have in front of me is not simply a receiver, a person who has to receive everything I say, everything I teach. This has to be an exchange, what you learn and when I know, a mixture. Finally, I would say that this mixture of making students feel that they're capable, that they are cared and encouraged is fundamental, as the phrase Natalia wrote in her dissertation. It's fundamental for having good people in our future, wherever they are.
I'm sure, and Chris, do you want to jump in and say anything for my final question here?
No, go ahead.
So I'm sure that you've faced many challenges since 1956 and since 1971, for, the past 50 odd years and 64 years since inception of the idea to operationalization of the idea. What constraints that you faced are you hopeful you will be able to resolve or address more fully or better? What kinds of things would you like to go in the next phase of Knight Heights School? What kinds of things do you see now on the horizon after being able to deal with this nasty COVID pandemic and still provide the services to 700 individuals? That's a success that you kept that going. Given you've been able to do that, you can do more. What would that more be that you look at as the next step or phase in the process, or even if it's something small? What might those things be?
I'm hopeful that we can implement more programs that support the reinsertion to society. In what I mean is that I think Nocturnos can help more, can help students go back in a more successful way into society by offering them or helping them develop different skills that society, or that at least Costa Rican workforce is needing. Part of the project that I was developing had this area of trying to develop in students skills that were necessary for them to be able to access better jobs. For example, we were teaching them how to write CVs, how to write cover letters, how to have more like interaction with their future bosses, how to prepare for an interview, how to of course develop the English language that is so important in our country, being a tourist destination, right? So I think that is one thing that the Colegio Nocturnos can work more towards, with different projects, with more connections between the community and the high school. More projects where community and high school come together.
Anya, we have about 30 seconds if you want to add one thing to it.
Okay, thank you. I would like to, in the future, I would like people with disabilities, with sight problems, with hearing problems, to have, what they need to continue their studies at night, because they face the same problems our regular students have, but they face another challenge, that is to overcome or to face the disabilities they have. People with disabilities to be incorporated at night schools too.
Mhm.
Great, that's an excellent way to end, and I really enjoyed the show. From the questions from Chris and from Young and from Punya and heading into the chat, we all did. So I want to thank you all for coming this week and providing that insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the conversation. It was great. For the questions too.
And you are all invited to come to Costa Rica.
Please
That's
do.
what we wanted. That's why I stayed an extra minute here. I gave you an extra minute of time because we wanted the invite. So when Young sees it, we took an hour and 2 minutes. That was why we did. So let's make sure we exchange some addresses and other things. So Natalia can provide that, and we'll share that. So next week we don't have a meeting. We don't have a show. We're going to take a week off for Labor Day and for reflections and for start of the semester and any other excuse that you have. But we're going to take a break for a week and we'll come back in 2 weeks. And we'll hear from Kendam Guybeck, who graduated from my program as well a few years back and is at the University of Minnesota, where they talk funny up there. Yeah. And she's an instructional design person, but that's not what we're going to talk about at all. She did her master's in Bhutan on the One Laptop per Child project, but that's not anything. Well, we'll talk about that briefly. She worked in Papua New Guinea with the Clean Hands and Water Sanitation Project. We're teaching designerly thinking to teachers and curriculum development in Papua New Guinea, and then went back to Bhutan and did follow-up studies on that there as well, and then off to Nepal. So we hear about stories of Nepal, Bhutan, Papua New Guinea. And she's been all sorts of places, with a degree in the Philippines and with work in Texas. And so it would be a fun intercultural, cultural development kind of program. So we'll see you all in 2 weeks at the normal time.